Welcome to Legal Keys, unlocking time, revenue, and results. The podcast that connects you with the people, technologies, and trending topics shaping the modern legal landscape. From cutting-edge AI innovations to high-growth marketing strategies and everything in between. Legal Keys is your go-to resource for actionable insights. Brought to you by Faster Outcomes and hosted by Tim Sawyer, two-time Inc. 500 co-founder entrepreneur. We're here to help you navigate the tools and trends driving success in today's legal world.
Well, welcome to Legal Keys, and oh boy, are we going to have some fun today. I cannot wait to introduce my guests. I don't even want to call them guests, my friends today. First of all, thank you everyone for joining us on Legal Keys. Legal Keys was designed to bring together industry leaders, tech entrepreneurs, innovative lawyers. We talk about all things legal, technology, current topics, trends. And what's really cool about our time together today for our listeners is we got two guys who check all the boxes. Innovative lawyers, industry leaders, healthcare gurus. These guys are the bomb. And with that being said, first, a little administrative business. We want to thank our sponsor, Faster Outcomes. For our podcast today, Faster Outcomes provides a legal intelligence platform for lawyers and law firms of all shapes and sizes. So grateful to Faster Outcomes. Now, with that being said, we are being joined by two people that outside of my wife and my former business partner, I probably spent more time on the road than any other people on the planet at some of the coolest destinations in the world. Unfortunately, most of the time working. Fortunately, sometimes not. But my guests today are Michael Byrd and Brad Adatto. And I'm just going to take a minute to read, guys. I want to make sure we get this right. Michael Byrd is the CEO and co-founder of ByrdAdatto, a nationally recognized healthcare attorney. He advises physicians and healthcare entrepreneurs on business strategy, regulatory compliance, transactions, and practice growth. Michael is a frequent national speaker and author on healthcare law and serves as a trusted advisor to some of the country's fastest growing medical organizations. I've loved our time together on stage, and I've loved our time together in person. Brad is the president and co-founder of ByrdAdatto. For more than 2 decades, he has focused exclusively on healthcare law, helping physicians, medical spas, ambulatory surgery centers, wellness practices, and how they navigate regulatory issues. We're going to talk about the world is changing quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. He's helped businesses scale. He's a great business consultant. In addition to not all lawyers are great business consultants. These guys are great business consultants. Brad is a nationally recognized speaker, thought leader in healthcare and compliance. Michael and Brad, thanks for joining us on Legal Keys today.
Thank you. You made us sound so impressive.
I know. I was just thinking maybe on our podcast, we could have him just come in and introduce us.
I love it.
I do like that idea better. Or will you travel with us and just introduce us before we speak every time? Like we could have him stand up in the audience and just introduce us. So does that work for you?
I'm surprisingly available. And I will say I was recently it's so funny. I was at a legal conference and the guy who introduced all the people was a chiropractor, but he was the greatest MC ever. And then I just got into a conversation with him one day about peptides, and he was growing a peptide business. And I'm like, I was trying to connect the dots with the whole MC legal thing, chiro, but hey, it works.
Yeah.
You know? So, and what's the compliance bear's name?
We actually don't ever think we've ever named the
it.
bear. Maybe we should have a competition on that. Kennedy's
Tim.
off camera.
I think
if there was ever a
Tim
name,
the compliance bear.
if there was ever a name that personifies compliance,
It's
it would be Tim. Or not. So guys, thank you so much. Let's get into it, right? So you're running an incredible law firm amongst many other things. Tell us a little bit about ByrdAdatto, how you guys got together as partners, the type of clients that you consult and advise, and also your unique revenue model. Our listeners would love to hear about that. And you guys pick whichever one wants to go. And
Hey, Mike, you
Start
start.
there.
All right. Well, it's truly like stepbrothers. Brad and I have been together for about 20 years now. When both of us were, I guess, seasoned enough as attorneys to think we knew what we were doing, but dumb enough to not to realize that we didn't really have it all figured out. We met each other as Brad was getting displaced from New Orleans, and we were connected by mutual friends that a mutual, actually former partner of ours that saw Brad's resume and said, "This looks just like your resume. You guys need to talk." And I think it started with a 2-hour lunch where we didn't talk anything about law. We just got connected and we had a vision to really blow up a healthcare practice. I had some synergy in a healthcare practice here. Brad had been doing that exclusively in New Orleans, and we always have to preface it. We became fast friends, which if you're guys, that means you ruthlessly make fun of each other, and so that's probably been the secret recipe for our success as partners for the past 20 years.
Yeah, and he's not allowed to say can we cut that he says he's my friend? He's not allowed to say that publicly. But yeah, I mean, it's been ultimately as a firm, and we've been doing this for, a while now, as Michael was saying, but if we're doing things correctly as a firm, all the entire team is helping to really protect and direct our clients. And that's the goal of what we're trying to do day to day. And our clientele tend to fall heavily in the healthcare industry, your typical physicians, your nurse practitioner, your PAs, and other types of providers. But and we do work with non-docs, but they typically are entrepreneurs that want to work with doctors. So it's a really fun area. And as we'll kind of dive deeper into the just aesthetic and wellness world. It's always evolving. And that's what's so much fun about this area of law is that there's constantly new things happening. So it gets you, if you enjoy learning, it's a great way of being challenged every day.
Yeah. And I want to get to the revenue model, but I got a question for you in terms of the speed of how the business evolves. There's a lot of motion now, particularly around the people, whether they call it integrative, functional, a lot of noise coming out of the administration around new peptides. Or you represent many clients that are involved in that space, and how has it been navigating that?
Well, the wellness space really started exploding, believe it or not, right around the COVID time. And that's when the whole GLP-1 piece started kind of growing. So you're talking in late 2019, early 2020 is when physicians and some of their clientele started figuring out that certain drugs that were off-label could change your eating habits or your ability to burn fat faster. And that then led to other longevity type of clinics. So it's been interesting watching what GLP were and off label and on label and now, short list and not short list. And then to where you're going to is you start falling into the peptide world and what's controlling that from a day-to-day business is what cannot do. And it's a fascinating area of law because it impacts the different states. So each state's can be a little bit different. What does the state law say on certain things? What does your medical board say on certain thing? Our nursing board say on certain thing? And then how's the FDA or FTC looking at it? And finally, which is relatively new to this area. I mean, we haven't talked as a law firm, we've been working with pharmacies our entire career, but watching medical practices understand and navigating pharmaceutical laws now, when you're touching peptides and GLP-1s and other compounding, I think they didn't even realize that they were stepping into that world. So it's been really fun, like going back to the opening, I had said it's just a fun, interesting area because it's constantly evolving and making sure you're trying to guide the clients as best we can in this ever-changing world.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is even learning recently, we work with medical clinics as well, how it impacts things like insurance and even payment processing.
Yeah.
Your payment processor goes, hey, wait, we just saw a transaction that's no muy bueno.
Yeah.
And, so I'm sure you guys are all over that, right? As you think about, yeah, that's a big impact. So two things that I want to talk about before we dive into our other topics for today. One is your unique revenue model. And then two is kind of how you guys look at forming relationships with your clients. There's 4 phases, I believe, that you take them through from, advice and inception. So talk about how those two are linked and how that's contributed to the scale of ByrdAdatto.
Yeah. So it's been 9 years ago now. Just we noticed that there was, for 20 years, as Brad and I first started working together, one of our common bonds was that the law firm billing model is broken. It creates a divide, non-alignment between the attorney and the client, because when something is going terribly wrong for a client, the attorneys make more money. And so on the traditional hourly billing model, and because it's all based on time spent, but there's just, it creates a divide in the trust. And we have or trying for years to figure out how do we do it differently. And so we have for lack of a better word, a subscription model that we built 9 years ago called Access Plus. It's a recurring revenue model, kind of using your term. And the idea with this model is to almost like an insurance framework. Let's understand what the business profile of our client is, and then we determine what their fee is based on that. And they pay us an onboarding fee when they get engaged, and then a monthly fee going forward. And that covers virtually everything that we do as a firm. So the only carve out to that is that we do have an M&A team for mergers and acquisitions, and that's a separate engagement. If that were ever to happen, it's a big, for many, once in a lifetime type event, and has its own nuance and intensity to it that we don't price into our model. And what I just described is kind of the current iteration of it. So we've learned a lot over the last 9 years on how to, perfect the model, how to create, how to price it, and how to run a firm inside this model. So we both were, prior to ByrdAdatto, on the senior management of our prior firm, and had a lot of experience running a law firm under the traditional model. And so we did learn a lot as we transitioned into this model a few years into ByrdAdatto. And it was exciting, but also there was a lot of surprising things that you don't learn until you do it.
Yeah. And how has the reaction been, right? I mean, has that resonated with
Yeah. It's resonated with those that are looking for a relationship. If someone's trying to do a one-off, or they don't understand, they just want to pay you by the hour. I mean, I can't tell you how often someone's like, I just want to pay you by the hour. We're like, I'm so sorry, we just don't do it that way. But for those, when they have the aha moment, Tim, when they realize like they truly are looking for that relationship, they understand that the whole idea behind it is really to get in front of issues. Often people wait too long. I call it the 550 rule, where if you had just paid someone up front $5, you would be in better position. But they wait too long, and now they're at a point where they're paying someone $50. So they wouldn't sign a contract, and they want to get out of it, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of it. Now they're going to have to spend a lot of money. And again, that's not us, because that's litigation. We're on the business side of representing clients, because ultimately we're business attorneys for healthcare practices. And when it comes to those kind of relationships, once they get it, they love it, and they're that's more important. They're incentivized. That it's called Access Plus, but the access is the access to a team of attorneys and paralegals who are trained to be business and healthcare attorneys to help spot the red flags, to then guide the clients of like, no, don't do that. Or yeah, we can help you with that, but let's write it differently. And that's the entire concept behind it. And again, going back to, your question, those who want that relationship love it.
To Brad's point, if you are kind of use-based in your thinking, like you worked with lawyers before and you think, okay, well, if they do this activity, they're going to bill me by the hour. So that's the most use-based you can be. But if their value proposition in their mind is related to the level of activity versus the level of just coverage, protection, and direction, as Brad said, that comes with having the relationship, then the use-based thinking is not as good of a fit. And so it sometimes takes time for them to kind of understand it, and then it clicks, or we're not the right fit for each other. But, if you have that bigger viewpoint, the things that we hear from our clients that love it are like, I just sleep well at night knowing that I've got you by our side, and that they literally, pencil in their legal budget because they know what it's going to cost them.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I'd add real quick,
and in
Tim,
a way, they're self-qualifying.
yes,
right? Because if you say, hey, this is our model, and the guy goes, I'm not doing that, you go, okay. And kudos for being disciplined, right? It's the hardest thing in the world is to say no to $5, right?
Yeah. Well, and exactly. And I think where it comes down to is if they truly think about Access Plus, it's a fundamental shift in their mind about how to work with attorneys, and to understand that we're a very collaborative firm, meaning that it's not, hopefully no one in this entire firm ever feels like they're on an island, except for Michael, because we don't like to talk to him. But besides that, it goes back to if 10 people have to figure it out, or 3 people have to figure out it, we want to get the right answer for a client, and to the client, they're not paying any difference to that. because ultimately we need to figure out how to make it happen. And so it's already complicated enough to be a business attorney, but now we're folding both state and federal laws on top of whatever that decision they're making and guiding them the best they can. And as you just mentioned, with peptides or any new drug or compound or equipment that's coming out, trying to find the best position in to really mitigate their risk associated with that particular decision.
And with that said, the last question I have, because you just segued perfectly what I want to speak to next. What has scale been like since you've introduced that revenue model?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's had its own story to it. So like the first time that we introduced it back in 2017, it was a beta mode, and we offered it to people that we had a relationship with to switch over to it. And it was a frenzy. Like we had way more. We just thought a few would like it, and it was just another option. But it by 2018, we launched this as, a full-blown service line to our business. It wasn't exclusive even in 2018. And so some of the learnings that we've had along the way in trying to scale it have been that when we had options, it did create some confusion. So like take the clients that didn't, or the potential clients that were use-based in their thinking, going back to what I was just talking about. If we said, hey, look, you can pay us a fixed fee of X to do this project, or we can start a relationship that's bigger. What we learned is that they would gravitate to what they understood if it didn't just instantly click. And so along this 9 years, there have been different points where we've learned different things and we've adjusted it and perfected the model to where it would unlock a new level of growth. We would grow, then plateau, and then we'd try to figure out. And so since we've gone to where our newest iteration is, the growth over the last year and a half has been the highest it's been over the entire 9 years.
Yeah.
Amen.
And I'll say this,
Great job.
to your question on scaling, that means also internally, we're doubling, tripling down on training and educating our team internally for them to really understand the needs of our clients and how to answer it, what's the hot topics, what's happening. So we spend a lot of time really educating everyone. I say everyone, it's not just our attorneys and paralegals, it's the entire team, because everyone needs to understand what we're up to. Everyone needs to understand the vision, where we want to go and where we're rowing and why we're asking them to row with us. So we spend a lot of time on that. And obviously for us, we've been very blessed to have a great culture here, because I think the ultimate, to really truly scale, it really starts with your team and having that great culture and the people. Michael and I fired ourselves a long time ago from hiring and firing people. So since then, we've got this incredible group of people that are coming through because we're not in charge of that anymore.
Well, this is the segue I wanted to bring up, which is what I admire. I really do admire this about both of you, is that you have simultaneously retrained two populations of SEALs, not only internally, right? In other words, lawyers aren't used to saying, yeah, this is how it works, right? We bill differently than other folks. They've got to get their mind around that, right? And simultaneously train folks who are used to hearing from lawyers a very different presentation. And so navigating that, I can imagine, I'm not surprised you're still, iterating after 8 or 9 years, and probably always will be, but you definitely will be considered pioneers. There's a lot of trends, as you know, on the legal side. We're in a few lanes. Family law is going through a similar process right now. There's some early clients of ours, they literally just publish their rates. This is how much it costs to get a divorce. And they put it on the website, and which was like revolutionary, right? Compared to how that typically, and is still, they're the outlier. But what I want to talk about, so you've changed that mode, and then also now you've got the rise of AI, right? So AI is permeating every ounce of our being at some level. And so I'm curious, again, because you're leading change, what you guys have done on a personal note around, hey, this is a sentence or two about how I use AI in my day-to-day life. And then what are the ambitions that you have inside the firm? And what are some of the initiatives you've begun to put in place?
Well, I'll say this, at least 3 years ago, we were AI curious, and we actually did a whole podcast on use of AI and just in general. It was kind of funny. We actually had AI build out a contract, and it basically committed malpractice. Maybe it was even 4 years ago now that I think about it. But it was fun, and that made us more curious on it. And so the leadership team at ByrdAdatto, Michael, myself, and our other partner, Jay Riero, we spent a lot of time just trying to understand what is it? What's out there? How do you utilize it? We kind of signed up for some of those online courses and just playing with it just to understand if we are using it, how can you use it? What are the ways you can use it? And obviously for us, not obviously, but we were using it in a sandbox in the sense that we're just kind of playing with it, but we weren't really using it from the firm perspective. It was mostly us just understanding what is everybody talking about when we hear the term AI. And that almost was like, I think for a lot of people, when you start messing with it, it got us more curious about it and what else can we do with it. And I won't mention the company, but there's a company called Faster Outcomes, but that reached out to us right when we were getting very serious about trying to figure out what else can we do with it on the legal side besides what we were kind of messing with, and just on a very small scale with Gemini and eventually Copilot and other tools. And maybe you can kind of talk about just the beginning of time when we were kind of messing with it.
Yeah, I mean, probably like everybody, we, had downloaded, signed on an account for ChatGPT and Gemini, and really probably not even Gemini, probably ChatGPT was the first one. And, like everybody, we were probably using it like Google at the beginning and just doing it like a search engine. And then we started realizing that you can do so much more with it. And of course, it was growing in its capabilities as fast as faster than we were even keeping up with what it could do. And so I think the main thing is that we kept just a spirit of curiosity to try to figure out what this is and how ultimately, how is this going to apply to our law firm? And you can allow the fears, is AI going to replace your law firm, things to creep in. But for the most part, we were looking at it opportunistically, like how do we take this and integrate it as a tool to provide better service and to enable us to be able to scale. And that's around the time we started talking with Faster Outcomes and really looking at firm technologies that we could use.
Well, what's interesting, Michael, your concept that we discussed going back a year and a half now, almost, was incredibly advanced. Now that the concept of knowledge, right? Knowledge, just if you use the term knowledge and you're in AI circles, people get what that means. That means the capture of institutional knowledge in a centralized, secure location. And your thinking about that at the time was very advanced, particularly for, the AmLaw 200 were playing around with bigger players, but they were spending millions of dollars trying to figure that out without a lot of success, by the way. And that concept was forward thinking, right? You may not know this, but Faster Outcomes originally aggregated 600,000 documents in the initial phase. That the number of records you have now is over 1 million that are now searchable inside the law firm. And you can, and that's, think about the level of compounding. So very forward thinking, long way to go. But I just want to really acknowledge that there weren't a lot of people thinking that way.
Yeah.
Back then. And even if you bring that concept up to the average attorney now, they'd be like, well, I don't get what you're saying,
Yeah, no, you and I, Tim, have had that conversation before over cocktails about attorneys not understanding the benefit. And Michael called it a tool, which I agree with this. I mean, one of the things we first started looking at it was, how can we help our team, not the attorneys and paralegals, but make their administrative burden piece easier and more, the repetitive tasks that we were doing, are there things that AI can do to help with that? And so we have spent a lot of time finding different plug and plays that could be added on that could then speak with Outlook. And so at the firm at any given moment, there's multiple different AI components that we're using. I mean, the long-term goal, like any probably organization, is that they all talk to each other and it's all on the same platform, but we're not there yet. But like going back to AI curiosity. Yeah, exactly. Is what can we do to streamline their activity? Because the ultimate belief, at least, is with AI, it's not going to replace the relationship between the human interaction. And those that don't want to have human interaction aren't going to hire us anyway. They're going to chat GPT it or do whatever they want to do from that perspective. But if we can make your ability as a human to have more time to spend it with other humans and build upon that relationship and learn how to use AI as a tool to enhance the outcomes and the speed of those outcomes faster, then all of those will help the attorneys better guide and direct in this case, our clients and or our staff better, faster ways in which they can then communicate with the attorneys, communicate with the outside clients, set calls, get a calendar. All those are the things that we're thinking about, ways in which AI can help improve everyone's relationships. So we don't see AI replacing people. We see it being an enhancement.
Yeah. And I think too, your revenue model lends itself to success with AI, right? Because why would somebody want to take something that takes 10 hours of billable hours and do it in a half hour?
Yeah.
Even
Now
though
you're
I can
talking
deliver
about
the product at the same level of quality, right?
yeah. Yeah.
That's a
You're-
thing.
This is the stuff that Brad, Jay, and I get so excited about is when we see different aspects of how we built the firm connect. Like, when you make that connection that we, because of a billing model we built 9 years ago, are perfectly set up to adopt AI and bring it in without facing the friction that most law firms are already facing right now, which is, very real. Like I'll hear a use case where they're like, yeah, I created these complex real estate transaction documents in a third of the time, and our client was thrilled, and we got paid a third of what we normally get paid because they're on an hourly model. And so these are very real pressure points that we're not experiencing right now.
Yeah. And I think,
incredible.
the day-to-day, I mean, again, I'll take litigation as an example. We're not litigators, but my buddies who are litigators, they're in court sometimes hours and hours and hours and weeks and weeks and weeks. I had a buddy that just did like a 5-day trial, right? Well, AI is not going to be doing that 5-day trial, but what AI will do to help them is while they're in court, it will have everything at their fingertips and be able to pull it faster and look at stuff and cite things faster. And I know there was some stuff out there over the years, but it's not going to be as in advance. So it's going to make their life easier. But it also may be that their preparation and everything that they did, that the hours and hours of research is going to be cut back, or the hours of writing will be cut back. And that goes back to then, are you going to have more time with that client? Or are you going to have more time with your family? So those are the kind of things you start trying to figure out how it is a tool. I mean, we were joking, and for the audience members not familiar with this, something called Westlaw and Lexis. And when Michael and I first started law school, you still had to use books to learn how to do the research. And eventually they had something called a disk drive. And on the disk drive, you could put it in a computer and you could start researching, but you had to go through like 25 disks. And then eventually they had something called the World Wide Web. And you could go on the World Wide Web and spend an hour and a half to research like one thing. But, and so everything it's been advancements in tools. And that's to us, at least the old guys here, we see AI just as a tool to be utilized properly by attorneys.
Like you said, you guys have set yourself up perfectly for success, not just with AI, right? Because there'll be other innovations that come along. Like you said, the ability to these systems all communicate. You're in a great spot. And I give you all the credit in the world. And I really do appreciate you guys taking time. The last thing I want to talk about real quick, and then I want to hear from you guys, managing change again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everybody's at a different stage in their AI journey, right? And you as leaders of the organization have taken, and I know Jay is absolutely incredible. So all the credit in the world to him. What's your philosophy around bringing those people along with you to keep them going on the journey?
Yeah. I'll start with this, and I think this was a surprise for all of us, is when we first started this journey, the three of us were curious and learning. We thought, okay, we need to add technology options to the firm so that we can all go on this ride together. And what we really didn't appreciate is that everyone in the firm, whether they're an old guy like Brad or someone fresh out of college, was not AI literate. I mean, it's a new language. And so we I think thought, well, if we can learn it, then everyone probably is further ahead than we are. But what we really appreciated and started to learn is that there's different levels of fear based. I mean, a lot of the people coming straight out of college are really scared that their job's going to get replaced by AI. And so there's, sometimes you have someone that just is against AI because of these types of things and their age. And so that was a big learning of like, okay, we really are all in this together and have to learn it. And there's not some AI expert. In fact, we were like, I guess that's us, which is scary because we didn't feel like experts. And even Jay, who as you know, is amazing. But
yeah.
And so that realizing that the integration of these tools into the practice is a massive step, and is one that we're continuing to do. We're just realizing and doing the hard work of persistently training and pushing our teams to experiment and become comfortable with it, and to give them reassurance that the purpose behind this is not to replace jobs. It's a tool to support them.
I would think that's the biggest lift, comforting.
Yeah. And the add-on I'll have to that is anytime you have growth, there's friction moments. We know that, having been with other firms and where we are now, and friction can be daily, monthly, yearly. It really just depends on where it are. So I was reading something recently. They were talking about orientation is where you are right now and you feel comfortable. And then in life, no matter what, there's a disorientation moment, right? That disorientation moment happens. It can be professionally, it can be personally, and it could be, your youngest daughter's leaving the house to go off to college and you're now empty nesters, right? There's a disorientation aspect of that. And then to me, where I'll give Michael and Jay credit for this, and maybe I'll add myself, is that we're trying to reorientate. The reorientation here is, how do we use AI, because it's very disorientating, into the firm to restructure everything, to reorientate everyone, to understand the purpose it will be, the tool it will be, and how it's going to be an enhancement for everyone here as we grow. And so I think that's kind of where we are as a society. I think more than just a firm, just truly understanding. So I think it's disorienting. I mean, to Michael's point, the kids in college, which I have a son in college right now, hearing them talk about it, a lot of them hate it. And they'll see a commercial that's AI driven, and they're like, "Oh, I hate this commercial because AI is driven," or "I hate that opening because it was AI driven." And you're like, "Okay, whatever." Like again, but it's disorientating, and I think that's why, because they were kind of built this way, and now there's something new, and they're going to have to rethink everything.
Again, as someone who spends a lot of time speaking with lawyers and healthcare providers, this is a rare circumstance to be where you guys are at. It's a testament. You're both very disciplined. In other words, I don't want to use the word dogmatic, but I've now known you probably more than 10 years or so. Super disciplined and super consistent. And I think that allows for flexibility, right? If you're not disciplined and consistent, then it feels like chaos, right? And you guys have that steady hand on the wheel, and I could see why people would follow you. So kudos to you. Amen. And this will be a great message for law firms that are trying to figure this out, the way that you guys have gone about this. And it's a great blueprint. So with that said, and as we wind down, what's coming up next 90 days, 180 days for ByrdAdatto? You guys on the road at all? What do you got going on?
Yeah, I think we're in October. We'll be down in Houston for the plastic surgery meet. And then I know that we'll also be in November. We'll be at the Global Aesthetic Conference. I believe Jay Riero's at another one in between.
Facial plastics, yeah.
Yeah, facial plastics. So and then actually in August, I'll be at the ANSPA boot camp in Anaheim. So yeah, nice. we've got a bunch on our plate, but we're excited to it goes back to, although we spend a lot of time internally educate, as you know, Tim, we really enjoy externally educating through our podcast or through just speaking. It's a lot of fun for us.
And surprisingly, for regulatory folks, you're not so uninteresting on stage.
I'll take that as a compliment.
First of all, some of the greatest, you guys are an enigma for sure, in a positive way, because some of the coolest freaking PowerPoints that I've ever seen in aesthetic medicine, really any type of A4M, you guys always had the coolest PowerPoints, the best visuals, the best thought. You could clearly tell you were prepared. And I loved it. Of course, I had no slides. So that's
all credit to Brad.
I could do my best 60 minutes without slides, too.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, well, we've seen you speak. There's no need for that. In fact, if you had a slide, I'd be disappointed in you.
I love the one you had of the guy with the car in the pit.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. And I just enjoyed it so much and look forward to getting out there again. If anyone who's watching this, guys, that's like, hey, they're really cool. I was wondering if I could shoot them an email and ask them a question about their AI strategy. What's the website? Easy way to get a hold of you if they're interested. I'm sure you're hiring.
Yeah.
So
ByrdAdatto.
Dallas-based lawyers, give them a call.
Yeah, ByrdAdatto.com, ByrdAdatto.com. I think our emails are on there.
Yeah.
On our bios.
And info@ByrdAdatto.com. You can reach out to that and it'll get out to the right team members also.
And you've got a great podcast.
Yeah.
Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. You've been on it a couple times.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto.
Yeah.
Well, just like I knew, this was going to be great. And not just the good feelings I get from seeing you guys, although there is a lot of that. I really do mean it. We're at a stage where folks are trying to figure their stuff out, and it's like, for some people, it's the fox and the grapes. I hate to say it, but Aesop's fable, where the fox jumps up once to try to get the grapes, he jumps up twice, tries to get the grapes, jumps up the third time, he goes, they're probably sour anyways. And he moves on, right? There's a lot of that happening right now.
Mm.
And I think in other words, people are like, AI, it's crap. Got to figure it out, right? You got to figure out for you. And so we appreciate that. So I want to thank our listeners. I want to thank Brad and Mike for joining us today. Tim, the compliance bear, we appreciate his time and talent and efforts on the show. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Faster Outcomes. And we hope everyone had a great time listening to this. We hope that you continue to share, follow, like us. Grateful for that. Brad and Mike, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Go kill it. And I can't wait to see you again soon.
Thanks for having us.